Obviously, we see the flash plays with Chop the last 2 weeks, which were both impactful. The overall quality of his play, otherwise against the run, other things, has there been improvement since the Jalen trade where the snaps increased?
Yeah, I mean, Chop was a first round pick for a reason. So it's kind of like I said when we were in Madrid. You have volume shooters in basketball. He's a volume player. The more he's out there, the more you're going to feel him because he plays with so much effort and energy that the ball will find him.
You were evaluating Rasul Douglas's tape. What was something that stood out to you? But then also when he got here, what was something that you didn't realize until you physically had him in the building?
Yeah, the biggest thing when you evaluate the tape is you could see how football smart he was. He was very cognizant of matchups, the width of the formations, all those things. You could see his veteran savvy all over the tape. And talking to a lot of coaches that had coached him, and Joe Barry, right? I have one right in the building who's outstanding. Couldn't say enough positive things about him and the person he was. So we had that guy in every room, right? And in that room in particular, it was very young, and we had Artie Burns, who unfortunately got hurt early in camp. So I thought it was important that we added somebody who had that veteran presence, who had kind of been in the battles and can help mentor some of these younger players. Because at the end of the day, like as a coach, you can sit up there and talk to your blue in the face. It always mean more coming from a peer, somebody who's out there doing it with you. And he's met all of those expectations. He's been outstanding. He is the consummate professional, and that has rubbed off on all the guys in that room.
We have a question and a follow-up about points against, which I know you value. In the last 6 games, I'm sure you know you guys have only allowed more than 17 points once. What has that meant to you? What has that meant for the team?
Yeah, well, for the team, and obviously, I think you win 100% of the games where you score more than the other team, right? So that's important. I think it's just a credit to all the work these players and my assistant coaches have put in, right? We have unwavering faith and conviction in what we do. And we knew that if we would just keep taking small incremental steps forward, and whatever that was, whether that was schematically, effort, focus on takeaways, technique and fundamentals, eventually the dam would break and we'd start getting the results that we were looking for. So you're as good as your last game, right? So we got to continue to press forward and see what we can get done in Pittsburgh.
And then the follow-up, Pittsburgh, staying on points allowed, has only scored fewer than 27 once in their last 4 games. Is their offense hot? How do you interpret that?
Yeah, they got a Hall of Famer at quarterback. They have some dynamic players at skill positions, right? DK Metcalf is a matchup issue. I think they have 2 really good backs with the Warren kid and Gainwell. So you got to make sure you're on your P's and Q's. You got to do everything you can to try to bottle up the run game, which they're going to put out big people and try to knock you off the ball and intimidate you that way, and eliminate the space in the pass game, just knowing that there isn't a disguise that this quarterback hasn't seen, but you got to do everything you can to try to change the picture on him as much as you can and as often as you can, and not be predictable in that, but just it's about winning the game within the game when you're playing against Aaron Rodgers.
Speaking of that Hall of Fame quarterback, last year ended with him kind of giving it to your defense.
Yeah.
He's in a different situation. You look secondary. How do you assess that whole dynamic?
Yeah. Very, very different game situationally. He diced us up here, right? Unfortunately, now the Garrett Wilson and Devontae had a little bit to do with that. Up there, right? It didn't help that they were blasting that Kansas City-Denver score on the scoreboard the entire game, and it was about 28-3 before the end of the first quarter. I'm sure it didn't help the morale of our guys, but we know they're in a playoff hunt, right? So it's December football, and at this point, if your team logo is still on that in the hunt page, you're going to get everything that team's got. So we know we're going to get their very best, and I know they expect the same from us.
Before you got here, Austin Clark had a big hand in Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer, Raekwon Davis. Now we've seen the work of the young defensive tackles in this line really take off in the second half of the season. What is it about him that helps young players develop so well?
He is very knowledgeable as a teacher in terms of technique and fundamentals. There isn't anything he can't help you correct if you're having issues on the football field. And the other thing about him, he's relentless, right? He is relentless in just his approach. He does not, you get some coaches out there who, say you don't want to waste time on the football field. I promise you, like he is never going to do that. If there is a second to get better, Austin, Coach Cotton, and those young boys, they're going to be getting after it, and they've seen the residuals of all that work.
And with Grant and Phillips, we obviously see flashes. We saw the grand stop on a 3rd and 1 a couple weeks ago. For the season, 2 tackles for loss for Kenneth, 1 for Jordan. For defensive tackles to go from, decent players to very good ones, do you think tackles for loss is any sort of measurement for that? And do you see capability for both of them to become more impactful in that way?
I don't. Let me preface that. I don't measure their success in terms of tackle for losses. I think particularly as it pertains to defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen, so much of what they do kind of goes unheralded and it's not on the stat sheet. A lot of the positive plays they have create positive plays for the guys around them, whether that's interior pocket push where our edges can eat and get sacks, whether that's holding up guards and double teams to keep our linebackers clean. There's a lot of people that benefit from a lot of the selfless acts that they do. Are they capable of creating more negative plays? Absolutely. That comes with football intelligence, gathering pre-snap information, right, and then taking those shots. And those guys, to their credit, if you think about where they were in week 1 and where we were a week ago, there's times on tape where you actively see them calling out plays. And that's just a credit to all the work and the study that they do in that room. So the negative plays, the splash plays, those are all going to come. They have that ability to make that happen. But there's so many things that they do, particularly that they're already doing right now at a young age, that just goes unnoticed to the untrained eye. But football coaches who are studying it day in and day out, they know what they're doing.
One quick follow. Has there been a clear increase for both Kenneth and Jordan in terms of the number of plays where they're creating opportunities for others in recent weeks?
Yeah, I would say so. I thought things started to click. Now, I think let me go back. I think Jordan Phillips, to his credit, has been pretty solid for a bulk of the year. I think early on he was kind of hanging on blocks too long when there are opportunities there for him to make plays, but he has remedied that. I thought things for Kenneth he turned the page that Cleveland game. Once we got to that Cleveland week, and that week of practice, I was like, all right, I think the light switch might have went off. And I don't ever see in that going backwards.
The players have this thing going where they're chanting guys' names and clap, 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 clap. But do you know, how did that ever start? And then can you just speak to the camaraderie on your unit?
Yeah, I mean, how cool is that, right? It kind of takes you back to high school days, right? And I try very hard as a coach. Like we are demanding, and when we cross those white lines, I expect the absolute best from you each and every day. But the one thing we've always strived to do on defense is to not lose the joy in this game, right? We all get paid a king's ransom to coach or play a kid's game. And each level, right, when you play Pop Warner, you're playing just for the love and for the joy. High school, you're doing the same thing. College, particularly nowadays with NIL money, I think Notre Dame owes me some post-dated checks. But it just starts to become more of a business. And often when you get to the NFL level, like it becomes very selfish in nature. And we try everything we do to combat that. So I think that celebration and camaraderie that you see on defense is something that we're constantly preaching about, protecting the pack, right? Old school, like the strength of the wolf is the pack. And I think you see a collection of guys who are very talented, who understand that in order for us to be at our absolute best, we need to do it together, and we cannot do it alone. Now, that celebration started one day when I walked into the meeting room, and everybody that walked in, they just started doing that, and I'm like, all right, I guess this is a thing now, which is pretty cool. So I don't even know who actually started the tradition, but now that it's here, man, let's keep it going as long as we possibly can.
Your name?
That was to literally everybody that walked in the meeting room that day. they were like, Russell Douglas. And then somebody else would walk in and they'd go again. And I just let it keep going. I was like, go ahead, guys, we're good.
Joe Minka isn't the most vocal person. He told us that there won't really be any emotions when he comes back to Pittsburgh. But I'm curious, you yourself as a former player, when you went back to Baltimore for the first time, what was going through your head?
You want the truth, the unfiltered answer, or the politically correct answer? No, I get it. You do understand that I think that's a credit to Mink. You know it's much bigger than you, right? And I know deep inside, regardless of what he says, it would mean a lot if we could walk off that field with a win. And I know he's going to do everything possible within the scheme to protect his teammates and try to get that done. But yeah, they all count the same, but some mean more.
I wanted to ask about the pass interference call on Minka. I think it was a couple plays before Russell's interception. I know it's largely inconsequential to talk about flags after the fact, but given there have been a couple of situations where it looked like good coverage, but the flag was thrown anyway, what does the player, what can he do better in that situation for that not to happen?
So that one was tough. I thought where he was, that once he closed that space and he got in phase, he could have got his head around, all right, which could have possibly prevented them throwing that flag. Funny thing is, the night before, I kind of called that shot. That crew in particular, I think it was, who was it? Adrian Hill's crew, but led by Bill Vinovich, because he did something to his Achilles. They were near the top of the leagues in terms of DPI, right, defensive pass interference and illegal contact. So I told our guys the night before, I'm like, I put the slide up again, I go, we're going to get called for one, right? And that's okay. But when we do, what is going to be our response? So to their credit, it happened, right? I think it was that 2 minute? I think it was 2 minute. It was late in the second quarter. And Jordan Brooks got a TFL, Sewell got a PBU, and then he got a pick. So I'd say that was a good response, which is all we're trying to do. We're just always trying to respond and not react. And I was proud of them in that situation.
How about that one-handed interception from Ethan Bonner?
Oh, you mean white chocolate? No, so proud of EB. Guy just puts his head down and works every day. And that's another one. When that ball was in the air, there was about 4 coaches on the headset. We're like, oh, he's going to pick it. And then he did. Right? Didn't know he was going to go one hand on it, but it was pretty cool. Happy for him, man.